Thank you for visiting peoplenow.org and our series of videos. This video is about rapidly implementing 6 of the most urgent UN SDG TAPs, particularly to end wars, poverty, unemployment, and combat climate change. And we also have one on strengthening the United Nations, which is extremely important. This view graph lists 6 of the most urgent priority TAPs that should be implemented as rapidly as possible. Obviously, TAP 18 is end wars. And the critical thing about that is actually to end, number one priority is to end the use of nuclear weapons. We have over 1,500 on hair trigger alert. We need to get those ended right away. And we'll talk about this more in a minute. TAP 19 is disarming and converting the military industrial complex, in particular to provide the products for the 2 TAPs below, 41 and 25. One is to provide full employment, TAP 1, provide full employment, jobs at decent work and living wages, primarily to provide needs and necessities of life, guaranteed incomes, and everything needed to become self-sufficient. This is a critical point. We really need upfront surge funding so that people become rapidly self-sufficient. Soros says this: we need upfront surge funding so that people can get self-sufficient as rapidly as possible. It will cost way less than dragging it out and just providing enough relief to stay alive. There's more about this if you read TAP 41. It's tied closely with TAP 25, which is to decrease the rate and degree of climate change and mitigate its adverse effects. For example, there's about 1 billion people in the world that do not have energy. They're having to burn wood that they gather in the forest. They cut down trees. We need to keep the trees growing. And what we need to do is give them photovoltaic cells, donate them to them to put on their roofs. It only takes about 5% of the roofs in a village to provide enough electricity for the entire village. So that will help on climate change, and it will also help on providing the needs and necessities of life. So that's an example. Planting vegetation, planting peanuts will do both. It will eat carbon dioxide out of the air, and it will use carbon dioxide out of the air, and it will provide food. We also have a TAP 20 that strengthen and fully fund the United Nations. This view graph provides more information about probably the number one target action plan, number 18, TAP 18. And the number one item is to permanently disable all nuclear weapons. Get them off of alert and disabled, permanently disabled. They are against the law. The Kellogg-Briand Treaty says you'll settle all disputes, no matter what the origin or the cause. If someone shoots a missile at us, the United States, it is against international law to fire back. This is the same as the old adage about turning the other cheek. The second bullet is end all U.S. wars, air and drone strikes, violence, conflicts, occupation, any use of force. Sanctions are not a pacific means. That's what the Kellogg-Briand Treaty tries. We do not have any right, and it's not legal for us to invoke sanctions on other countries. We've got to get rid of military alliances and empire building. We need to apologize and pay reparations to the people in countries harmed by the U.S. This is by far the best way to end terrorism. The terrorists come here to attack us because we have had troops over there. We're stealing their oil. We're doing these things, hitting their children, killing their children with drones. So we need to stop all that, and we need to apologize and pay reparations. And there will be very little, if any, terrorist attacks after this. It has to be a sincere apology. We need to turn over all our bases and facilities to the United Nations so that they can use those to distribute the SDGs, and in countries where we don't have good governance, they can help improve their governance. We need to bring all offensive weapons, troops, and contractors home. We need to settle all disputes and conflicts by specific means. Each one of these has we have a separate, what I call a TAP, a TA, target action. It is to, for example, ISIS, we should stop bombing them, we should pull back and try to negotiate. If they are not willing to, we go in a defensive position, not let them expand anymore. And we need to have a trial in absentia. It would be legal to try ISIS in the United States because they've killed American citizens. So we could try them, and we could have our special forces go in, we could put a price on their head, but we don't need to bomb them and kill a bunch of civilians and give them an excuse for more, a reason for more terrorist attacks. TAP 19, permanent disarm. That's extremely important. There is no need for the military because wars are outlawed and you do not respond to threats with military forces. You negotiate. Now this will be a phase-out process. Obviously we have to be defensive, but the Constitution requires that the state militias, what we used to call militias, state guards, we now call them National Guards. It needs to be a state guard, and it needs to protect against invasions. And there will be no invasions. Now we need to militarize and allow former military personnel, now, depending upon their temperament, to join the UN peacekeepers or the International Police Force, Interpol. With a few, and it should be a combination of countries, not just U.S. in the Interpol. It should be people from all over the world in our international police. And they could go, and the idea is not to go in to kill the people, it's to go in to arrest them. You can also put a price on their head, and I believe the people will take care of it. They don't want to fight wars, 99% of the people. It's a few people, and most of those people will stop when we apologize. Now, the next one is develop and implement a pure defense doctrine. We're supposed to have a defense department, but it's very offensive, so we need to get back and see what we really need for a defense doctrine for state by state. We need to phase out the military and all offensive weapons, ships, and aircraft. It's really sensible because our ships with the weapons today are sitting ducks. No way can you protect a carrier against a determined terrorist. We need to convert the military-industrial complex to provide products for peaceful, sustainable purpose, in particular TAPs 41 and 42, which we will now discuss. This is TAP 1, full employment for the entire world. Achieve full and productive employment at decent work and guaranteed living wages, primarily to implement TAP 41, which ensures everyone has all the necessities of life and everything needed to become self-sufficient until they are self-sufficient, and this will end poverty. Tap 25 is decreasing the rate and degree of global warming and mitigating its adverse effect. The example we show here is providing photovoltaic cells to be installed on enough roofs to provide electricity for the whole community will help them become self-sufficient, at least in energy, and combat climate change. The same thing applies if they plant vegetation to eat or if they plant trees to use for building material. That will decrease global warming by eating up the carbon dioxide. It will also make them more self-sufficient by having food to eat and wood for building materials. Final, but not the least important of all the 6 urgent taps that we're talking about, and that's to strengthen the United Nations, fully funded, industry-related organizations, and there's no intention to make the UN a world government. This is an excuse has been for years, and it's been mainly the elitist and the rich that say this because they know, many of them know they're violating the law, and if we have a strong world government, they won't be able to do this. So we need a strong world government, we need a strong International Criminal Court, we need a strong Interpol, and they need to be fair, and they will be. We also need to be sure that UN Sustainable Development Goals are fully funded and are implemented rapidly. There's 17 of them that are very important. There's one on decreasing inequalities, which are horrible in this country and the rest of the world. And also, there's one dedicated to climate change. The third bullet here is help amend the UN Charter to give the United Nations and related organizations the authority and means to enforce and ultimately make international law. We need to get teeth into the United Nations. It's not mean making them a world government. It means making them an international police force. Over 100 countries still torture people. It's against international law. Now, you'll see in our later plans we have ways of handling this. I do not believe in throwing people in jail. We need to have humane private prosecutions, not insulting people, confronting them in public, but getting them to understand what they're doing is horrible, and mainly paying restitution. And we need to be able, the United Nations needs to be able to do that, because many of the countries, including the United States, are not enforcing the rule of law, which is extremely important. And we have a SDG for that also, for enforcing the rule of law. The third one is also extremely important. Kellogg-Briand Treaty requires this. Passed in 1928, signed by the U.S. in 1929, before World War II. It says to settle all conflicts and disputes by Pacific, and I added and legal. I consider legal means of Pacific. It's very important because some people are just not going to listen to reason. So we do need to have a functioning legal system and a functioning rule of law. Anyway, thank you for listening to all this. We welcome your comments. The one thing you can do is click on the bullet that says check out the massive global movement. You do not have to join, but you can put remarks in there about what you think of all this and what you think we need to do. Thank you and have a great day.